Morning, lovely ladies. Hope you've had a great weekend. It's Monday again, a new chance for a new start, new opportunities, and what's going to come your way this week. Maybe you have some lovely plans in place, or maybe you are waiting to see what happens and what comes your way. Today, I just wanted to talk to you because I have been doing quite a lot of outreach and engagement on Facebook this week. And this weekend, and it's really made me have a little think about a situation that I haven't really spoken too much about on here, and that is what happens when you've got to stay. I know the group is called Healing Her Toxic Past, but I'm equally aware that as well as having a toxic past, some of you are having a toxic present as well. You might be in relationships that you're finding very difficult to get out of. You might be in a situation where you feel it's completely impossible. And I just wanted to share my own experience of staying in a relationship. So this was the thing that I found the most difficult to forgive myself for. I always thought I was quite a strong, independent woman, and that if somebody was causing me difficulty, that I wouldn't have any issue with leaving that relationship. Turns out that's complete rubbish, that actually it took me quite a long time from when behaviours started to me finally finishing it and walking away. So thought I would talk to you a little bit today about what happens when you have to stay. So I was really cross at myself. I was really cross that I'd stayed for such a long time in hindsight. I thought that my 3-year-old had no idea what was happening. Actually, turns out he does. He did know what was happening. He did know there was lots of shouting. He did know that there were problems. And his behaviour certainly showed that. So for me, looking back, I felt terrible that I hadn't left before, that it had taken me such a long time. And it took a long time to work through that, a really long time. So for me, part of the issue was the fact that I knew that if I left quickly, that I would potentially go back. And if I would potentially go back, that would mean we'd potentially have another child, which would make me feel doubly sort of trapped in that situation. Obviously, I know that you can split up with a partner with 2 children, but, you know, it's going to make it a bit more difficult. So I stayed until it was the right time to go. And the right time meant that it was as easy as that horrible situation can be. I was a bit more financially sorted and settled. But probably one of the most important things was that I was strong enough. I was strong enough to say, there's nothing that I want here anymore. There is nothing you can do about it. And therefore, I'm going to leave. And that was because I'd had all the promises. I had boxes upon boxes of cards about, you know, how sorry and changing and all of this sort of thing. Not for everything that had happened, because a lot of the things he said, because he'd been drinking, he couldn't remember, so he couldn't possibly apologise for those things. But lots of other things that happened, and very wordy, flowery kinds of cards and what have you, that actually didn't have any substance behind them. There wasn't anything behind them at all that would mean that something was going to change. He had chance after chance after chance, and it still wasn't happening. So what are some of the things that I did whilst I was still there, and what are some of the things that you could do? Well, the first thing that I didn't do that I wish I had was find support. I opted not to tell my friends what was happening. There were clear reasons for me for that. I did lose some friends over this actually, because they couldn't believe that I was so confident and open and what have you, or seemingly so, that something so massive, I wouldn't talk about it. But actually, I didn't want to, constantly bitch about the fact that I was having problems and what was going on. I didn't want to be the kind of person who was going to moan about it for a long time but not do anything about it. I didn't want to bring my friends down, and I knew that my friends would be phenomenally supportive, but I equally knew they'd be like, well, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. And it's not always that straightforward. Yes, absolutely it should be, but it isn't. It isn't as straightforward as that at all. So that was the reason I didn't speak to many friends about it. But in hindsight, there were a couple of people that I could have spoken to who weren't close friends, but who knew what it was like to go through it and who had been in the same situation. So I wish I had reached out to them to say, actually, this isn't just bad, this is fucking horrific. I wish that Facebook had been bigger at the time, because actually there's a ton of support network groups on there where you can just go and talk about what you're experiencing, and let it out, you know, have that private, and that's the thing, it's private. I don't think I would have written very much in a journal, although a journal would have been great, because I think had that have ever been found, it would have been read. And I wasn't ready. In fact, I probably would never be ready for him to read that. So for me, a journal wasn't an option. I guess notes on your phone, you could put notes on your phone. There is a lot of power in writing, so writing is good. Maybe if you could either find somewhere to put it where he wouldn't access it or she wouldn't access it, alternatively find somewhere else for it to stay, that he doesn't have any access to or doesn't go to, so there wouldn't be the risk of finding it, because writing is really, really helpful, really useful. What other outlets have you got? In terms of getting the emotion out, is there some sort of creative outlet? Is there some sort of like, could you go to the gym? Could you go kickboxing? You know, some way to let the anger and frustration out. The way I let my anger and frustration out used to be letting him fall asleep, making sure that he was asleep, going to the bathroom, crying into a thick shower towel, to the extent that normally I would make myself throw up. So by the time we split up, I'd gone from being rather curvaceous to being very skinny again, because the nerves and the anxiety and the worry and all of this kind of thing was big. I wish I'd gone to the doctors. I wish I'd told the doctors what was happening and at least got some medication support in the meantime whilst I was waiting to do that. I was on antidepressants, but I didn't think about the fact that I needed some anti-anxiety as well. So I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd gone to the doctors to kind of get that additional support. But I think part of that was I felt that I would have to explain why, and I didn't really want to do that. I wish I'd just made up a lie, really, a convincing lie about how stressful work was or something like that. But again, that's another option that you can have. For me, one of the biggest things was I did have some financial freedom. And so I lived beyond frugally for a period of time whilst I paid off debt, because I knew that once I had moved out, I wasn't going to be able to pay rent on another property, albeit I was getting support then from the state. I wouldn't be able to afford some of the other bills and what have you, alongside affording debt. And I really didn't want to fall into a situation where I was under some sort of plan for debt that was going to indicate that I wasn't very good with money. I really didn't want that for myself, so I worked really, really, really hard, did lots and lots of other little jobs and bits that he didn't really know about. I did Usborne Books for a little while and made more money from that than he realised, and therefore contributed a tiny bit to the house, and, you know, said we don't make much profit on it, but I really enjoy it and it's really good for me. But actually the rest of it I was paying off, and this isn't just my debt, I was paying off joint debts that we got as well. So actually he ended up in a much better situation when we split up as well. There are lots of things that you can do even when you feel trapped. I understand completely what it's like to feel like either you ought to have left sooner than you did, if you are in a situation where that situation is in your past. You know, don't beat yourself up over it. You stayed for other reasons. You stayed because you'd invested heavily. You stayed because you didn't want to leave empty-handed. You stayed because you needed to be strong enough to leave. You stayed because you were putting together for the financial strongholds to make sure that you were able to cope on your own. You stayed because this person fathers your children and you didn't just want to walk away from that, and you felt that you owed it to your kids to try and make it work. You stayed because you were frightened. All of these things, they're really valid reasons for staying. So forgive yourself and release yourself from the fact that you stayed too long. If you're in this situation now and you want to reach out, even if it's just a chat, please do let me know. I'm here. I'm quite often on Messenger messaging various women, actually around the world really, who are struggling, who are finding it difficult and what have you, and just need somebody to come to where there be no judgment. And there isn't any judgment from me, none at all, about any of your situations. Everybody has their own reasons for doing things, and I promise I will never make you feel bad for a decision that you are making, because it will be something that is important to you. So if you know of anybody who is in this situation at the moment, who is in a toxic relationship that they feel unable to get out of, please share this group with them. Please ensure that, you know, they know that they can come and be vulnerable here. Even if it's privately with me, I'm more than happy to reach out and speak to them. That's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. What other solutions are there for them? Are there charities and what have you out there who can assist them? what are the laws in their country or their state or wherever it is that they happen to live in relation to domestic violence. Some countries are really, really backward still and don't understand that emotional abuse is as horrific as physical abuse in lots of circumstances. So it's all of those sorts of things as well. So there's lots and lots and lots of different options that they can have a look at. In fact, I will put a freebie worksheet together which just goes through some different options for them to consider. Share that with them, get them to come to the group, whatever it is, or if you feel that you need to reach out and speak to somebody. And I'm not necessarily talking about you having to have lots of sessions and what have you, although one-to-one coaching is available if you want it. But even if it's just to reach out and say, actually, Sarah, I'm in this situation and I'm really struggling at the moment, I'm absolutely here for you. That's pretty much it for today. I will put something together so that you can give it to friends, or you can share it with them, whatever you want to do, or you can utilise it yourself and it will just have the points that I've touched on today. If you're watching on replay, as usual, just put a hashtag replay so that I know who's watching live. I know that Kelly is watching. Hello, Kelly. Hope you're all right. Yeah, I'll be back with you on Thursday for some more information. Lots of love to you, and I will speak to you soon. And if you are coming on at the end, Shell, sorry, lovely, I'm just about to finish, but do watch it. The replay will be up in about 30 seconds. So have another look at this, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.